Great to see you guys. Hopefully you guys heard that and whatnot. Great to see you, Charles Latora, even though you're probably already gone by now, that you were saying that your daughter's going to take you out for breakfast and you can't find your headphones, so you can't even listen. Great to see you, Tolemykus, and great to see you as well, William Arends. Thank you very, and Harro Bosma, of course. Yeah, thank you, William Arends. I did, haven't even read it. I did just, darn it, I didn't have enough time, but at least I've got it structured into the Word document. Zoe Dufour mentioned that she won't be here today. She's got a math final exam to do, and then she's off to the cottage with her husband, Stefan, and her 3 dogs. Goodness gracious. Great to see you, Brian R. Smith. Yeah, I'm not too sure anymore about, or maybe it's next week, I guess, is going to be the Euro finals. Well, mind you, that'd be on a Sunday, I'm assuming, so I think I should be safe. Gamers with Coffee, Ashley, great to see you. And right off the bat, Gamers with Coffee, Ashley, this threw me sideways. I was watching one of Charles Latora's mail call videos, and he popped out some hazelnut coffee that had your label on it. I was like, what in the world is going on? So if you can let me know, do you guys sell coffee or what's going on here? All right, so I'll put on the narrative thing that I normally like to do. Oh, good morning, Meandering Mike. Great to see you. Hope you're doing well. So I'm going to pop the narrative thingamajig on here. Hold on here. I'm going to stop this screen. No, oh, good. I can just go straight to this thing here. Right on. We have a shop. Okay. This is going to be, thanks for letting me know. Brian R. Smith says England versus Switzerland at noon. Oh my gosh. That ought to be interesting. Yeah, I used to be a monster soccer fan. And then our local team, our very first professional, well, not really, but the Ottawa Fury, when they folded, that broke my heart, basically. 40 plus coffees and 6 teas. Holy smokes. Okay, we need to talk. I love picking up new coffees and whatnot. Hissy Cat, good morning, peeps. He says, great to see you. Hope you're doing well. All right, so we're going to go quickly through the narrative bits, and we'll see how we go from there. Working on trying to get hot chocolate as well. Holy moly. Okay, so I know, yeah, this is from last week's mix and match. The fact checker thing that didn't quite work because I didn't clue in about how to pop in the format, but I'll figure that out at some point. I will say this, it's one thing that's always on my mind is trying to make sure that I'm not going to stay or become stale. I don't want to become stagnant. I want to push ahead. You know, I don't want to get lazy doing this week in, week out. I mean, but obviously I still got to learn how to do a lot of things. And I'm assuming I did put it right. I think last week you were saying, Brian R. Smith and Meandering Mike, that it was John Davey, not John Daly. I think I misspelled his thing. But anyways, the reason why I've got Jan Smuts there, of course, is right now he's in the thick of it in Germany, East Africa right now, really putting the pressure on the Germans and Leto Vorbeck down there. So I wanted to have him as part of the mix and match. The John Davey thing is because phosgene gas was first used just a few weeks ago. And on a side note, Brian R. Smith, you had mentioned phosgene gas a few weeks ago as well. Edith Wharton, she was on the World War I. So she was the one who traveled around in Verdun with her chauffeur in a Mercedes a year before the Battle of Verdun gets on to. I was talking a bit about it with Meandering Mike last week. He knew about her, that she's an American author and whatnot. We'll take a look quickly at the pictures here. But she was able to go way into, like twice, way into Verdun. And it was kind of like a no-no even back then, as in you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. However, she got a pass due to the fact that the general at the very end of the line kind of thing had just finished reading a translated version of one of her books, The Joy of Mirth, I think it's called. William Arends says another reason that the Social Democrats would not want industries under government control was that it would affect the base of their support, which was the Free Association of Workers. William Arends, this is also, you're pushing on, you're pushing in realms that, damn it, I wish I could talk about right now. It's just that there's just so cloudy in my head. Anyways, so it's a fascinating article. It's in the latest issue for World War I Illustrated here. Manfred von Richthofen, he loves to hunt, and also that he is present right now in the Battle of BERTHA. Otto von Bismarck, he was mentioned in the Margaret Macmillan book that I was starting to read. I've stopped reading it right now. Tolemykus says the proletariat would approve. Interesting. Because you guys are way over my, like I said, you're going above my cerebral pay grade right now. Otto von Bismarck, due to the fact that obviously he had a monster impact on the formation of Germany as they knew it back then, and so on and so forth. And he, some people did call him the Mad Junker. I don't know if that's how you pronounce that word, which we'll talk about later is another thing I want to do. Brian R. Smith says, Gamers with Coffee, where do you ship from? I know, there you go. That's what I'm thinking of too. I'm almost like maybe I'll do a trade for some really good maple syrup or something. Anyways, he was, supposedly he enjoyed sometimes on his estate waking up his guests by shooting at their windows early in the morning and stuff like this. It's just like, what in hell's interesting character, I think. Interesting for just the little bits I've been reading about him. He just seems like one hell of a melodramatic person. Princess Mary, she died in 1965. The reason why I had her as well was that she was one of the books that I picked up with on my ebook thing free. I think I paid like $1 or something. But she also had a massive amount of impact there with her work during the Great War. And I mean, I think a lot of you guys probably know about she wanted to have like a Christmas gift for every British soldier or soldier of the Empire or whatnot. And, you know, those little tins that you see, those little brass tins, you can still buy them, for goodness sakes, on a secondhand market all over. Wow, exactly. Oh, I'm really... they're roasted in California. This is good. This is cool. Gamers with Coffee, Ashley. I hope that it's so weird. All this time, I just assumed your title, Gamers with Coffee or whatever, was just, you know, it was just like you enjoy drinking coffee while you're gaming kind of thing. And then when, like I said, when I saw the label on Charles Latora's thing, I went, oh my God, I've got to get some. Are you nuts? That's not, I mean, crazy. Oh my, wouldn't that be a cool, of course, not everybody not everybody drinks coffee, but I'm wondering, geez, maybe I'll buy one, get it popped on over here, or I can get you to ship it as a gift for round 3 as one of the choices, because the other choice right now we have is the Hissy Cat audiobook that I still have the coupon thing, so that would be neat. I'll let you guys do your thing there. You guys seem to be having a Gamers with Bourbon is next. Lord of mercy. That's for the after-hour show, Tolemykus. All right, and then also I thought if you guys ever want to, because I do get them on occasion from people posting pictures of their games, you know, what's on their table. If you want to show other people on this group what you got on, please send me a picture and I'll definitely post it. I'm going to be posting one from the Grog Shed today. I don't think he knows that I'm doing it, but I'm going to do it anyways. And it's not even the Great War, but I was like, well, tough. I'm going to put it up anyways. He's one of us, for goodness sakes. The big battle, the big Bertha bingo. I'm going to say this: when you see the points for the trivia, the big Bertha bingo is working for some people because you're getting points based on what the battles were. That's how, for example, Meandering Mike is now tied with Tolemykus due to the fact that last week he had the Battle of Jutland on his card. Hissy Cat says, I am one of the 5 people on the planet who does not drink coffee. Meandering Mike is with you there. So you got a brother in arm there. So there, and we'll go to well, Sharami is going to show us the battle. So that's why Meandering Mike and Tolemykus are tied at 57. And of course, Meandering Mike's up. I'm just putting him in alphabetical order. But a few people did get some points here. So I'll take a look later on. And do not forget William's pictures from last week. Hopefully we'll take a good look at that. The pinup guy and gal of the week, we don't have to worry about because I didn't do that again. Another thing, though, I'm starting to hopefully clue into, and maybe it'll be less rambly, is I'm trying to see if I can find ways to segue certain sections together. Yes, you do need to catch up, Hissy Cat. Is that... So, and then see if I can put the hour into blocks of time. So, for example, with the board game of the week, it's this week's The Invasion to Togoland, 1914. but I want to start segueing that. For example, like last week when I didn't get to show the scan map of Africa, which I thought I would like to start getting into a bit more, trying to find some graphics when we start talking about the week that was and going into the after-hour show for the war summary and so on and so forth. I really, really want to show at least the scans and get this talk going about the Bosnian crisis back in what, 1907 or 8 or something like that. Well, we'll find out in a minute. Because as you know, it seems like they were almost came to blows then. So maybe World War I would have occurred back then at this point. Oh my gosh, it's just all these neato things to find out about. The Declaration of London and the International Humanitarian Law databases, I'd like to pop that on very quickly as well. Due to the fact that last week, Great Britain decided, that's it, we're no longer going to follow the Declaration of London. And Italy was all upset about it at some earlier point, I think. And I was like, okay, what the heck is this Declaration of London? So I looked it up and I went off to, and that's where you get it. You want it in full on, go to the International Humanitarian Law databases. That is so above my head, though. It is not funny the way they're talking. I was like, say what? Gamers with Coffee Ashley says we have teas as well if you don't like coffee. Boink, there you go. Oh, yes, that's right. You see, Kat does definitely drink tea. So there you go. We have a bourbon barrel coffee. On a side note about your bourbon barrel coffee, someone gave me as for a Father's Day gift, Stefan, my son-in-law. Not much, so I can only use a little spoonful. I just use a little spoonful every day. But it's dark maple syrup that sat in a whiskey barrel for something like 7 years. I'm like, whoa, and you can taste it. It's nice. Anyways, so I wanted to take a look at the Declaration of London. Essentially, it's about blockades and contraband. The first section, I was like, that's when I realized about international law and whatnot. I'm like, this is so above my head. I don't know what in the world they're talking about. All kinds of laws about blockades. But I do want to go to Article 18 specifically about what is considered not contraband. And that's what slowly gets eroded over time. And I think Great Britain just is enough of this crap. Because like right off the bat, the first thing they say is cotton is considered not contraband. And I'm like, that goes out the window pretty damn quick. Corvinus Wargaming, great to see you, and good timing because I was just talking about the Bosnian crisis and the Declaration of London and Lord knows what. This also hopefully will segue into the Mariner's Mirror, which is a fantastic nautical website, which I wanted to bring in. Like I said, the Africa map scan, hopefully that will have been already mentioned when we get to the BGG thing. I don't know if we're going to get to the trench map or most likely not. Consim World Forum Post is yet again hopefully going to be in a little chunk for the when I start talking about games. I'm trying to do like little sub themes or whatever. And this was in a Consim World Forum Post, and it's a fantastic article. Charles Latora mentioning last week, I think during the after hours show or whatever, he was like, "Hey, anybody know about trench raid?" I didn't, and he never followed up on it, or he never expanded on it. So I was like, goodness gracious. Greg is double checking on where we ship to, but I'm pretty sure it's a worldwide. Fantastic. And like I said, yet again, we probably won't get to the Volta anti-colonial war in West Africa, but yet again, that's something I would like to take a look at. And then, we're actually going to go very quickly to something that I want to, this is, yet again, I didn't even have to type this out. I just did minor editing. I used the dictaphone this morning. I was like, hey, these are things I would like to focus on upcoming this week. Getting graphics, like I said, for the week that was and possibly for the after-hours show. Finding a World War I themed solitaire game and get you guys to decide a move each week. The main thing is here, I mean, I want to engage with you guys. I don't want this just to be an hour-long monologue, even though it tends to sound like that. I do want to finish up the report on the Battle of Lake Narok because that'll start really getting going with the Brusilov offensive, because I'd like to talk a bit more about that, and this will hopefully bring some more of that into context. There's a lot more data this week from the week that was and whatnot in the headlines for me entering some data for the officer to non-officer prisoner percentages. So hopefully by the time we get to 1918 or whatever, we're going to have a ton of information to take a look at, which would be great. And then remember, I don't know what's going to happen in mid-August, but Paul Hederer is going to be returning, and odds are he's going to be a repeat offender. So I want to start preparing that type of stuff. I'm not just trying to jingle it in my head what to talk about. Corvinus Wargaming says you can make pretty good graphics just in PowerPoint with free fonts online and pictures. You're darn right. And PowerPoint, those type of things are great because they scale extremely well. It's really, really well done. And I want to look ahead at next week's war summary and identify words I'm having a hard time pronouncing. It's driving me up the tree. So I've had enough. So this week I'm going to jump the gun and go through and then write them down and then practice a little bit because I've had enough. Also, that I would like to do an overview of Section 22, which is trenches from the Weltkrieg rules. It's not, he doesn't mention it in his tutorials, Dave Schroeder and whatnot. It's not like he does 18 videos or whatever. I mean, they're amazing, but still. So there we go. Let's go off to Big Bertha Bingo first, and then we'll also do the trivia. I think that makes sense. I also wanted to show you some pictures. So hold on here. I want to stop the screen. Brian R. Smith says, anyone know about Clint Warren Davey, a designer from Australia? He has a 1 hour World War II design that he is adapting to a 1 hour World War I game. I'm going to pop your thing on while I'm doing whatever here so everybody can see it. Very early in design, but interesting. Nope, I don't know anything about it, and hopefully somebody will pipe in. Okay, I'm going to pop this off right here for a second because I want to show you guys the pictures. The mix and match. All right. And I'm going to make sure that it's displaying properly. Oh, it is. Okay, I've got it for the window. Wow. Okay, I'm going to hide you now, and then I'm going to go to present the screen, and then here we go. So this is, sorry, you haven't seen her yet. There we go. And I got rid of me completely. So that's Edith Wharton. I obviously tried to find the best pictures I can find. Meandering Mike says, Clint also has Werewolf on Legion's pre-order system. Oh, I've heard of that. So that's her, the author, the American author that ended up getting to travel around in a car and giving out aid. She was primarily also trying to do like a big, a lot of fundraising and whatnot for the Red Cross and so on and so forth. She did a remarkable job, supposedly. I usually dilute my coffee with milk, but once in Nicaragua, the restaurant did not have milk, so I drank it black, both the smell and the taste of the, can't read the rest, but there we go. We're going to go to the next one there. So there's Jan Smuts, the South African that fought in the Boer War and he's doing pretty darn good right now in Germany, East Africa. That's, darn it, I can't remember his name. You guys would know him. Oh, there he is. I've got it on the bloody thing. John Davey. So there you go. Hissy Cat, Clint Warren Davey was a designer who entered postcards from the front game jam. Oh, wow, neato. His entry was an early version of his 1 hour designs. I interviewed him on my channel. Oh, wow, wonderful guy. He says, well, we're going to have to look that up. There's Baron von Richthofen, obviously, with his Blue Max. That's Otto von Bismarck. That's Princess Mary. And that's the end of that. Okay, so I can get rid of that. And now we're going to go to, let's go to the trivia questions while I start trying to find some other stuff. We'll start popping on the clues. I think this is going to go Turkish coffee, Corvinus Wargaming. I was just talking about it this week with a colleague, and I've never had it before, and I really would like to try it. The guy was like, boy, it's a really long, extensive process. Will knock you back if you aren't used to it. Brian R. Smith says, Clinton is very active on Twitter and shares a lot of his design thoughts. Oh, my. Interesting. Hold on here. Yes, let's go to the banner. I'm going to show you this. So here's your first clue for the trivia, who or what am I in World War I? And this is the second last round. So the last round will be next week. And then I'll send off the Shara and Me book faster than you shake a stick. So here's your first one. I was born in Stuttgart, and my dad was a Bohemian aristocrat. Well, odds are it's going to be who am I? Completing the comment, both the taste and the smell of the locally produced coffee was fantastic. Yes, I've heard of people living in areas where they're like, yeah, I got to watch them roast the coffee like right there. I'm like, you lucky buggers. Okay, so I'm going to pop that in the put it in the comments as well, so you guys can get it that way. All right, so that's your first clue. 20 minutes I've waited. Oh, not wasted, but my goodness gracious, what is wrong with me, man? What is wrong with me? All right, and then I'll give you your second clue. Although I was of noble blood, I was not of dynastic blood. Who am I? Nobody's got it yet, eh? I thought for sure. I thought, okay, maybe this one. Here we go. I didn't see all these comments. Maybe they just popped up now. Meandering Mike's going to get a point for a good king. I can't even say that. And there's maybe something I'm going to have to also look up that and pronounce later. And Hissy Cat's going to get one. The Kaiser. And where the hell are you? There you are. You're up to 4 points. However, you are both incorrect. And I'm now going to give you your third clue. This one, I don't think you guys will get this one. William Arends says Rommel. You are incorrect, but interesting. There you go. Pop that in. So the next one is my castle was picked to be on a 10 euro commemorative coin in 2004. Who am I? And I'll put that in as well in the comments. Hold on here. Okay, the next one. You son of a... Okay. So, oh my God, I'm just going to say this. You are correct, Corvinus Wargaming, because you got got in before Brian R. Smith. And Harro Bosma says Count von Schlieffen. And Brian R. Smith, you are correct. But Corvinus Wargaming snagged you. And I'm just going to say this for the other people that are in the running right around you. Meandering Mike and Tolemykus are probably going, thank goodness Corvinus Wargaming came in with the answer, because he beat you. You don't get the points. I'm sorry. Meandering Mike says nice. Yes. And my next clue would have been my husband adored me. And then the next one would have been, I entered, it's the first time I'd ever seen the word was yesterday. I entered into a morganatic marriage, which caused a lot of grief, which I guess is marrying at different economic or whatever levels. And then I was entombed alongside my husband on the 4th of July, 1914. All right, so there you go. Noble but not dynastic was the clue, but it was still challenging. Oh, excellent. All right, so hold on here. I got to pop you in some points. Corvinus Wargaming. 8. All right, a left hand. That's it. Meandering Mike. Yes, that's it. Exactly. Thank you. A left-handed marriage. Perfect. Okay, now let me get out of there, and I'll show you a quickie picture of her. Yeah, hold on. I got to pop it up first. Where are you? Oh, yeah, of course you'd be in there. Hold on. Which I've changed the name. It's no longer History Heroes. Goodness gracious. All right, present, share the screen. Yeah, I'm going to have to jump the queue on some things because I want to definitely make sure. Oh, yeah, I can get rid of the banners. Hold on. So well done, Corvinus Wargaming. And like I said, you saved Corvinus Wargaming's friends. Joseph was really opposed to her for that marriage. Yeah, and I can't remember who. Yeah, he had to sign all kinds of crazy stuff to say that no, she would never be his proper consort in waiting or whatever, and that way their children couldn't do this and on and on. It's quite a whatever. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of that picture. And I want to take a look at the narrative very quickly. I want to make sure, okay, we're going to the Bosnian crisis. Screw this. I want to make sure that we get to that. There's a bazillion other things I do want to talk about, but that is just something I'm like, no. Okay, because it was last week, and it's like, it's just, I'm hoping this is going to be a big, long running narrative, as well as I'm trying to still work out how in the world, everything is just so, all these treaties and okay, here we go. I'll just shush. So this is a scan. These are a bunch of scans you're about to see in a minute. I'm going to have to put it widthwise. So these are a bunch of scans from the Companion Longman, the Longman Companion book. Gamers of Coffee Ashley says Sophie Duchess of Hohenberg. Perfect, exactly. So here we go. I'm going to go to the window width. So I'm not going to read this bit. I just wanted to go through the timeline quickly with you guys, and just like I said, just trying to get this into my head, and hopefully it's not driving you guys nuts. The Bosnian annexation crisis, 1878, the Treaty of Berlin. Austria is allowed to occupy and administer Bosnia and Herzegovina, which remained nominally under Ottoman sovereignty. 1881, the Austro-Serbian Treaty. Serbia under Austrian domination until 1903. Good morning, Mini WarMutt. Great to see you. I hope you're doing well. William Arends says their son, Otto von Habsburg, could not have accepted the Austro-Hungarian throne, but he did become a member of the European Parliament for Bavaria, Germany. Jesus Christ, you guys know your stuff. 1885 to 1908, Austro-Russian cooperation. They agree in 1897 to put the Balkans on ice, but Austria raises the question of a future annexation of Bosnia-Herzegovina. 1903, June, the assassination of King Alexander of Serbia. His successor, Peter Karyovic, or whatever, is a Russophile and a Slav nationalist and challenges Austrian domination. 1906 to 11, the Pig War. Austria tries to bring Serbia to heel by closing her borders to Serbian livestock imports. Everybody's saying hello to you, as you can probably read. 1906, Arenthal and Izvolsky, both supporters of an active foreign policy in the Balkans, appointed foreign ministers in Austria and Russia. Arenthal believes that it is essential for the Habsburg Empire to settle the status of Bosnia-Herzegovina. 1908, January 27th, Arenthal proposes a rail link between Bosnia and the Adriatic, crossing the Sanjak of Novi Pazar, which divides Serbia and Montenegro. Serbia regards this as a threat to her national ambitions. Austria also asks Turkey for exclusive economic rights in Macedonia. All right. I'm sorry if I'm not reading the whatevers. I'm just trying to really go here. Corvinus Wargaming says the assassination, unless it's like boink for this stuff, the assassination of the Serbian king was a really big tragedy for stability in that region. Okay, oh boy. Ivolsky, July 2nd, Ivolsky's note hints that Russia might accept an Austrian annexation of Bosnia if Austria supports a revision to Russia's advantage of the arrangements governing the Straits. Of course, we know what that is. July 6th, the Young Turk uprising causes Vienna to fear that a regenerated Ottoman Empire will try to reassert its rights in Bosnia-Herzegovina. 10th of September, the prime ministers of Austria and Hungary consent to the annexation of Bosnia and Herzegovina. 16th of September, Ivolsky and Arenthal meet privately at Buchlau. They emerge with completely different interpretations of what was agreed. Arenthal believes that Ivolsky has given Russian consent to the annexation of Bosnia. Ivolsky believes that Arenthal agreed to back Russia over the Straits question in return for support for a Bosnian annexation at some later date. He assumes nothing will happen until he has prepared the ground diplomatically. Arenthal announces the immediate Austrian annexation of Bosnia. Tsar Nicholas II freaks out, and the Russian press rages at this betrayal of the Slav nation. Britain suggests an international conference. Ivolsky is told that Britain disapproves of Austria's flouting of the 1878 treaty, but she will not support Russian ambitions in the Straits. And this is where I think that this little tit-for-tat thing we were hearing about a few weeks ago there with the Germans going, oh yeah, do you remember this about the Bosnian crisis stuff? Oh my God, I'm way off base, not reading it. I hope you guys are enjoying yourselves. 22nd of October, Austria rejects the conference unless it agrees to the annexation of Bosnia in advance. November, the Serbian army is mobilized and Serbia is outraged by Austria's seizure of what it regards as its historic territory. Holy shit, man. This is close. This is getting close, isn't it? 1909, February. Maybe I'm not going to go through the whole bloody thing here. Vienna demands immediate Serbian recognition of the annexation. Tsar Nicholas II asks Germany to mediate in the dispute, but Germany sends a note, another one of those things, which amounts to an ultimatum demanding immediate acceptance of Austrian demands. Russia is forced to back down. She is in no condition to fight after the recent war with Japan and is forced to accept the annexation. Austria mobilizes her army against Serbia, which still refuses to accept the annexation. But on the 31st, Serbia is forced to climb down in the face of an ultimatum presented in the name of the great powers, but reflecting Austrian determination to crush her if she resists. Okay, I'm going to stop that bit now. Maybe I'll just do part 2 next week because we're already 30 minutes into the show. And I'm like, goodness gracious me. I want to make sure that we get to talk about other things. All right, so that's that. Let me see. Let's get back to the narrative very quickly so I can see that I'm not getting too far off base. I do want to show you this quickly because I want to give these guys as much exposure as I possibly can. Maybe WarMutt says Russia and Japan had a war in the early 1900s. Darn right. What was it, 1906 or something like that, or 1907? And the whole Battle of Tsushima thing. It was you guys are going to know way more than I do about it, so I'll just shush. But I'm still waiting for Legion War Games to release their bloody operational thing for the Russo-Japanese War, which I'd love to see someday. All right, so here we go. So there we go. The World War I Historical Association. This is their little news thing. I'm just trying to give these guys some exposure. They're not a huge group, like compared to, for example, like the Western Front Association. Like we're over 6,000 of us, for goodness sakes, in that group. These guys, I don't know how many there are, but 1904-05. Thank you, Corvinus Wargaming. So I just wanted to show you what's coming up, and I don't pay very much money, guys, but I will give you a trick. If you want to become a member, do it right after November. Don't do what I did last year, which is, I think I signed up at like mid-October, and then I had to reboot my whole membership again because they do it on the 11th of November. I was like, Jesus. But anyways, this is coming up next week. A look at the careers of key American leaders in the European theater of operations, and this is by this is going to be done by the president, Randy Galtby. So he's there, and then there's going to be the week after is going to be they're going to do this from what's his name, Steve Miller. That's right, Stephen Miller. He just did one about, oh darn it, wasn't Gallipoli, was it? No, it was somewhere. I think it was somewhere in Greece. Yeah, it was in the Balkans, and now he's going around Sarajevo here. And then this was from last week or whatever, but they're going to do a reboot because it didn't go over too well. But I just basically, and then they also have a fantastic article of the month here. I don't know if I'm allowed to post it up there, but they probably would love the exposure. So maybe I'll pop it onto my community tab thingamajig so you guys can take a look at that. They're just a really darn good group. I'm so happy, and they're very accessible, quite frankly. So okay, I'm going to get rid of these guys so we don't have to see them anymore. And I still have to kind of keep the narrative here. Let's go to BGG Board Game of the Week because that's going to start flowing a lot of things. Then we'll get to the week and the ATA. Because we got 28 minutes, I think that should be all right. All right, let's hold your horses here. Let me get to make sure I've got the invasion of Togoland. Gamers Coffee Ashley says they have over 11,000 members all over the world. Who? The Western Front Association. Wow, I didn't know we had that many. I thought it was only around 6,000 or so. Jesus, right on. All I know is when I go some of those lectures there, the online lectures, there's like 200-300 people attending. It's like, holy smokes. And then versus the World War I Association, Historical Association, it'll be sometimes 20 or 30 kind of thing. And so it's a big difference. Okay, big difference. Okay, so there we go. All right, so I'm going to bump it up a little bit so you guys can see this. So it seems quite an interesting game, to be honest with you. I think, yeah, you guys can see that. Well, I'm not going to do the whatever. The invasion of Togoland, 1914, as you guys probably, or maybe some of you guys know, that was a quick victory by the Allies over the Germans. Chrispy Galactic says, better late than never. Fantastic to see you. Hope you're doing well. And I mean, after that, they thought, boy, everything was going to go easy. Well, it wasn't so easy when the Cameroons kicked in. Does anybody have this game? I would love to get this game. You can get a copy of it through whatever, but for me, it's cost prohibitive. The guy, Dennis Miller, I think his name is, I end up finding out that he did the Battle of Tanga game. So obviously he has some African Great War interest. He did the game for Legion War Games, which Charles Latora, I think, is the only person so far that has actually recorded playthrough on YouTube. The only one that did it. And it's supposedly a real tough game to play. When I went to some of the forum posts, Dennis Miller, I think that's his name. We'll take a look again. He looked very, very accessible. And I was like, geez, maybe I would like to go and see if I can. Yes, Togo, you do, you little brat. You lucky brat is what I'm trying to say. I'm envious is what I'm saying. Because I would like to, this looks rather interesting, especially when I saw the wireless or the radio station counters and stuff like that. I was like, oh boy. It's also got a look, it's the same type of coloring almost to that Compass game, End of Empire, kind of reminds me of. Anyways, unfortunately, it seems like Dennis Miller died in 2021. I was like, boy, I wouldn't mind. Maybe I was considering maybe reaching out to see if he wanted to chit chat about his games. Meandering Mike, look, I am envious. This looks like a sweetheart of a game. Yeah, look at that. That looks like a really nice game. Really nice game. And then we're going to very quickly go to the forum things because that hopefully will. I have to go. Have a good day. Gamers with Coffee, Ashley. Great to see you, and I look forward to giving you my custom. That is for sure. All right, so I'm going to go to forums. Dennis Bishop, sorry. And it's this BBC article, which I thought was quite nice that somebody popped this in here. So we can go off to here, and it's also going to segue to something else. Hold on, I just want to get rid of a bunch of other things here. Because I have to get this one and say I want you to go, okay, goody, I see what it's doing now. So this is where, so this guy said, hey, why don't you go to here? And it's quite a little, I popped it in the sources and links, so you guys can certainly go and take a look at it there. But I haven't read it, but it looks pretty darn good. And I thought, well, we're all into trying to find out more and more about what the hell's going on here. So there you go. And this will also lead us to, hold on, I got to grab the link. It's away from the Western Front site. I've mentioned this this website before, but I certainly want you guys to see it. So there you go. This, well, you can see it's away from the Western Front. And I actually went, took a look at, Izzy Cat says, have you seen the number of World War I games in Vivictus magazine? No, I have not. You're going to have to maybe do a video for us, Hissy Cat, please, hint, hint. William Arends, what chance did the tiny Togoland colony have to hold out? Not much, especially when the German, the head of the Germans there, guy went around and talked to the other countries, the other colonies, for the other factions, and said, hey, we don't really have to have any part of this war, do we? We can all just stick together. And oh, really? Okay, Hissy Cat, I'm going to have to go and take a look. Thank you for letting me know, or all of us know, really. Yeah, and if they said, no, thank you. He was trying to be smart, but it didn't work. So here you can go, like, for example, we can go off to Togoland, and it's got quite a good, long, extensive bit on here. So if you guys want to find it some more, and like I said, off you go to further reading land. This morning, I just went off to here because I wanted to find out more about China, and it was quite nice. It also had the siege of Tsingtao here and all this stuff, and I was like, oh, goody. So a little bit more info there. So there, we've done that. Okay, you know what, which is what we're going to, on a side bit, do, which is what I wanted to do anyways, is remember I was mentioning about what games are we playing and so on and so forth. And I also wanted to show the game that the Grog Shed's playing. It's an Avalanche Press game, El Amin or something, the World War II one. And then from there, we'll go to the week, or we'll take a look at William Arends' pictures, do the week. Yeah, I think we're going to be all right. I hope. Let's go to the games. And it's also, well, I'm slightly indulgent, but I'm trying to also kind of entice you guys into sending me some pictures of what you're up to. Like even Brian R. Smith, you want to show a couple of pictures of your progress of your counter clipping going through the Weltkrieg. I would love to see that type of stuff. So here we go. Hold on here. I'm going to make sure that I'm viewing back to fit the window. All right. So hold on here. So here's the first one I've been up to. There. Yep. So this is, well, you guys, probably a lot of you guys know that's on my war table. The Russian Third Army right now and the Fifth Army over here have done two combats, both successful. We were able to push, make these guys retreat, and these guys retreat over here. Yep, you guys can just see that. But it's more for just positional play. I just wanted you guys to know what I've been up to the past week, gaming-wise. This is upstairs. I just downloaded this from Wargame Vault this week, 2 Trieste. I think it's a pay what you want, or it's free or something like that. And then I'm slowly trying to get the Western Front Battle of Jutland set up again. Remember when I had that massive wind damage and it just took all my counters away. It was like, holy smokes. I've also got this in the works to try to, and it was been helped out with Tankrite, sending me a ton of information. Shameless plug, shorts of 10 different World War I games. You're all welcome. Darn right. Plug away, man. Plug away. So this one is just going to be I'm just sending out a solitary Austrian vessel over here, and we're going to try to do some merchant raiding along here. And then my little fictitious scenario is I've got, this is a 20 grid thing, so I can roll a D20 to see where they start, and it's going to be a British patrol thing trying to protect this this area, and that's getting there. Yet again, I decided I'm going to try that scenario 8 for the soldiers game again. I've got it set up, and as you can see very quickly here, William Arends says the only way for the Kaiser to save his overseas empire would have been to admit the failure of his Western offensive and come to terms with the Entente in 1914. Well, based on what we've just been hearing about after the disaster of the Battle of Ypres, what do they call it? The slaughter of the innocents. Even it's got this scenario in this game actually. Was that Falkenhayn was saying basically the war is over. We have to start figuring out ways of doing a settled peace. It was like, holy shit. And sorry, and that was like in the fall of 1914. So William Arends, you're right there. So you can see I'm not yet again. The Central Powers are more or less doing what they're going to be normally doing, which is this beautiful. Put some machine guns here, try to get to the town. But what I'm going to do for the Japanese this time is I'm going to try to outflank and take this hill and cause a lot of grief towards the Germans that are going to be hunkered down here. I'm just going to try to have to take my time, but that's what's on the cards. And this is what the Grog Shed's got just set up. And he chuckled to me. He's like, and this is the introductory scenario, Chris. He's like, look how many flip encounters it is. But he seems pretty excited, so good on him. All right, so I've done that. What did I say I wanted to do after this? We're going to go and take a look at William's picks. Now, William Arends, you have to let me know what in the world we're looking at. Like if you can add, put some comments in there, because I'm just going to be staring at them going, oh yeah, I also wanted to show later on about that Africa map. Hopefully we can, do I got here? Yeah, I'm going to show it very quickly. So this was a scan, and hopefully, like I said, I want to use it later on. Did I show you this one last week? I'm not sure. A little late now because you're going to see it again. All right, hold on here. And then I'm going to put it width-wise. There we go. Yeah, so I think, I'm not sure if I did show it to you last, but I wanted to, I certainly do want to start, like I said, later on for when we start doing the week that was and whatnot. Something I want to start cluing into. If I can use that little graphic instead of me as a pop-up on the side, that would be great. But I want to do that. Okay, hold on here. I can still, now we can go straight to William's stuff. All right. And I got to, hold on, switch the view. There we go. So these are pictures you took at you got to let me know what, William Arends, I can't remember what, where you took these from. I think it was from the library, the Kitchener Public Library, if I remember correctly. But anyways, Corvinus Wargaming says the German colonies were done as a compromise with some domestic political interests. Togo was the only profitable one after subsidies. Yeah, and I remember reading the Byron Farwell book at the very beginning. I haven't read nowhere near it. I lent it out, but very beginning of it, and they were saying sometimes people were a little perplexed that the Kaiser let that slide because it was he should have done a bit more protecting ahead of time. So the Tsar of the Grand Duke Nicholas, the Grand Duke, I don't know. It's neat that you got these pictures, man. Russian royalties work and rest behind the lines. Music and menu in the debris of battle. Cool. Yeah, I'm going to have to maybe pop these up. I think that's what we should do. Corvinus Wargaming says, I used to know the literature on these German colonies, but it's been a while. There we go. Nice. Yeah, I'm going to have to oh, look at that book. Jeez. Oh my. How much is that? $20. That would be coming home. I can tell you that. You studied them. Neato. That's a beautiful looking map. And you have that in your possession, William Arends. Oh my, you lucky little devil. That's the Africa one. I was like, you son of a bee. Another nice one that you got. I'm going to put this to widthwise so I can very quickly look. I just want to see. Oh, yeah. There's Togo. Wow. Nice one. All right. Hold on here. I'm going to get back to I'm getting sidetracked. Yes. Lucky little devil. Really? Oh yeah. Nice one, man. Nice one. Well, let's get to, I'm going to have to pop this up to the widthwise again as well. Tuba Death, vivid Italian battle scenes. Holy shoot. Oh, too bad Charles Latora is not here to see them. Like I'll post these up to the community tab, William Arends, for sure. Whoa. Look at that. Tube of explosive. Jesus, now I understand what they're talking about. I was like, I didn't understand. I thought it was like some kind of like a metaphor or like for that area, the tube of death. Oh my gosh. Fearless Cossacks, saber and put to flight, a crack regiment of Hungarian hussars. Wow. William Arends, actually I gave all the antique maps to my grandson who loves maps and history. Wow, well done, sir. Well done. Yeesh. A bit grim looking in. What is that? Austrians hauling an unexploded Italian shells. Holy jeepers jumping. Yeah, well, 2 men suspected of spying in an Italian camp are being led to the commandant. Okay, I thought maybe they were getting, you know what? That's what I thought was happening to them. All right, let's go next. From Riga to Sebastopol is a far cry, but the indefatigable, forget it, emperor of all the Russians could one day review troops in the Baltic port and another inspect his fleet at the other end of Russia's line in the Black Sea. Shows his mighty majesty with Admiral Grigorovich and the naval staff. Neat. Oops, I didn't. And there's your German East Africa. Oh boy, actually, I could be an evil person. And well, since I've got it, I can print it at least. Yes, I can. Look at that. There's the rail and all kinds of, oh yeah, nice one. Okay. Good to go. Good to go. All right. So we got that over with. Done. Now we're going. Oh my God. Look how quickly this is zipping along here. Don't worry, William Arends. We're going to get to your ATA for flipping sure. But I want to get to this bit. Yeah. And we'll just do part 2 for the Bosnia crisis next week. And I'll see how it goes. All right. I'll pop me here. I think, oops, the wrong way. Is that it? Yes. All right. The week that was for June 30th to July 6th, 1916. And you know what I'm just saying was amazing. It saved me so much time. I read this out on the dictaphone and just did minor tweaks. And it was like, wow. Continued Allied bombardment on the Western Front. French retake Thiamont. Indecisive small British naval action in the Baltic. July 1st. Great Franco-British offensive begins on a 25-mile front north and south of the Somme. Well, we know that. Well, what am I saying? We know what it is. It's the Battle of the Somme. And that's why I've got that actually, the book in the back here, Somme. That was a gift that Dad versus Son sent me. And it's about an Australian his experience during the winter of 1916 and then 1917. Gamers for Coffee. Have a great Saturday, guys. I have to get going. Nice, awesome to see you, man. I hope you have a great weekend. Anyways, that's why it's there. British capture Montalban and Mametz. British breakthrough towards Bapaume. French attack towards Peronne. French reach the outskirts of Hadricourt and Corlou. French take Dampierre, Becancourt, Boussus, and Faye, with 5,000 prisoners taken. On the River Pruth, Russians advanced northwest of Kolomea. The Austro-Germans progressed northwest of Tarnopol. Vigorous Italian attacks continued north of Upper Isonzo. In Persia, the Turks defeat the Russians, and pursue them to Kermanshah. On the 2nd of July, British captured Fricourt. British relinquished the captured trenches at Goumercourt. French take Courlou, Frise, Bois de Maricourt, and Hebercourt. Russians take offensive at Smorgon and Baranovichi and penetrate the German lines. Germans continue advance on the Lusk salient. South of the Dniester, they regain the Tolemykus. Skirmishes near Salonika. Artillery duels on the lower bank of the Vardar. Heavy artillery fire and sharp infantry attacks in the Trentino and Carso. Turks retake Kermanshah. Russians driven east on the road to Hamadan. The 3rd of July, fierce fighting continues along the Somme. British capture La Boisselle and part of Ouvier. French capture Chipitre Wood, Fior, Bouscourt, Flacourt, and Asville to the south. Germans gain and lose Domluc work in Verdun region. North of Ancre, actions indecisive. 12,300 prisoners are taken to date since the Somme offensive. Holy shoot. Battle of Baranovichi continues south of Vilna. Russians use naval bombardment on the German lines near Riga. French air raid on Sofia from Salonika. Russians again resume the offensive on Armenia west of Erzurum. Belgian advance in East Africa and region between Lake Tanganyika and Victoria Nyanza. I'm just going to say this on a side note. I'm also doing some little side project, which I'll report for you guys as well. Damn it, we didn't even get to the sluice thing for we still have a tiny bit of time. Well, report of the Royal Commission on the Causes of the Irish Rebellion is issued. The Russo-Japanese Treaty regarding the Far East is signed. Corvinus Wargaming says, I didn't know the Ottomans were fighting in Persia. I'm sure you're being sarcastic, I'm assuming. July 4th, heavy thunderstorms impede operations along the Somme. British take Bernafay Wood east of Montauban, make air attacks on Comines, Comblay, and Saint-Quentin. French capture Este, Belayon, Hong, Santerre, and Sormont Farm, advance from Courlou towards Hem. Germans regain Thiaumont. Second great Russian advance in the Ukraine under General Lesch. Russians cross the Styr at Kolki and Rafalovka and drive the Austrians towards the Stockholm. Corvinus Wargaming says, I thought Persia was neutral. Oh, neat. Yeah, but I think, on a side note, I think a lot of that was okay. How about I'm going to go look it up a bit more because there's a little bit of I know the Brits were pushing them to do certain things, and anyways, Italians continue to advance in the Trentino. Remember the way the Brits are. Well, we promise you the world. Do whatever, and then we'll completely ignore you when the war's over. The Goeben and the Breslau bombard Russian ports in the Black Sea. Ignatius Tribich, Lincoln, ex-MP, sentenced to 3 years penal servitude for forgery. The 5th of July, English improved their positions between Somme and Ancre and advanced slightly in some sectors. I thought, I thought you were being sarcastic, actually, Corvinus Wargaming. That's why I was like, but you weren't. Okay, so that's why I'm like, okay, we're going to go and look that up. Maybe that'll be for next week's fact checker thing. North of the Somme, French repel counterattacks at Beloy and Santerre. German attacks at Verdun on Avalcourt and Hill 304 fail. On the Riga and Baranovichi fronts, fighting continues. In Galicia, Russians continue their attacks south of the Dniester. Uprisings in guerrilla warfare in Serbia and Montenegro, owing to weakening of Austrian garrisons. That'd be interesting. July 6th, British win ground on the slopes of Thiepval. 2 successful raids on the Luss salient. French again repel attacks at Beloy, lose a small wood north of Hem. Artillery active at Verdun. Between the Styr and Stockholm, Germans fall back in disorder from the Chartworsk salient. Italian pressure on the Trentino and the Isonzo fronts continued. Ministerial changes with Mr. Lloyd George becoming Secretary of State for War. Lord Derby, Under Secretary for War, and Sir Edward Grey, raised to peerage as Viscount of Fulladon. All right, so I'm going to stop the screen. We got 6 minutes. What the hell did I wanted to show you? I was like, damn it. Well, I'm going to look at the narrative quickly. That should pop. Well, I certainly do want to quickly go to your the ATA. We've got 5 minutes. We're going to be okay. I just wanted. What was there? Something very quickly. I just look. Okay, so we're not going to be able to do the consim thing. I'll show that later at some other point. Yep, I think that's going to have to just the other stuff is going to have to wait because I want to go to your ATA, William. I just need a little voice of my poor voice. I don't know how you guys deal with this. Actually, me yabbering away, and then you guys, some of you guys still stick it out for the after-hour show. I'm like, talk about it. You guys are beautiful people, or well, you're also good gluttons for punishment, but you're beautiful people, is what I'm trying to say. All right, so here we go. Done. And this is from William Arends, the ATA. I found this paper in the archive, the Volkswagen, a West German organization of the Social Democratic Party. This excerpt shows the ongoing division in the party between the pro-government and independent factions. The Volkswagen, an organ of social democracy for Eastern Westphalia and the Principality of Lipschen. 1st of July, 1916. The speech given, since we just love you, boss. Well, thank you. The speech given by the Social Democratic leader Schiedmann of the pro-government faction in Breslau reveals the view held by certain circles of people about German war goals. He stated that the German government had no desire to annex the 6 great business associations. He also stated that this was contrary to what a chorus of the press corps had agitated about through their distorted political viewpoint. A group of these journalists had demanded a denial from the Reichschancellor on this issue. It must be painful to the press lords that semi-official newspapers, such as the North German Daily News, have made public the Reichschancellor's clarification that appears to be a denial of aggressive war aims similar to the utterances of Scheidemann. The Social Democratic paper of Copenhagen is of the opinion that what was left unsaid in Scheidemann's seemingly indiscreet speech, if it was not a statement of his own beliefs, was not unwelcomed by the Reichschancellor. The Reichschancellor has also at the same time stated that Germany would not seek to annex foreign lands after the war, which is I'm doing it again. But you go read the September thing there. I was like, okay, well, because that was in 1914, so we'll shush. In keeping with the utterances of Schiedmann, no responsible German government would seek to do so. The opinion of the Social Democratic Copenhagen paper concerning the Schiedmann pronouncement that concurred with the Reichschancellor was that they did not agree that the government should choose to use an elected Social Democratic representative as its mouthpiece. That they would choose to be used in such a role is the reverse of what should be expected from Social Democrats. One thing is right, beginning with the Scheidemann speech, that for the first time it has been publicly acknowledged through a statement in the press that the German government does not want to annex foreign lands. Well, maybe they don't anymore. Translators note, but they sure did. This tortured text seems to be affected by government censorship. The Volkswagen editor seems to want to criticize Scheidemann for allowing himself to be used as a government mouthpiece, while acknowledging the position of neither expropriating private businesses or annexing foreign lands was in keeping with their own beliefs. I found it comical that this is a paper for Eastern Westphalia. This occurs because of the specificity of German local geography, Eastern Westphalia being the part of Westfalen east of the Rhine, which is above me again, William Arends, because yeah, your geographical whatever is way. So that's it. We've done that. Oh, as per usual, not even close to finishing what I wanted to babble on about. I'll try to pick. Well, we're doing part 2 because you're going to see what I would like to get into. And that'll be that. And then I'm just going to say hello, goodbye to you guys. Hopefully you guys have a fantastic So this is what we're going to quickly look at next week. It'll be part 2. And try to continue on with this Bosnian thing and Bosnian crisis and see what's going on there. I'm going to stop the screen. Thank you again. And yet again, if you guys want to post pictures of your games that you're doing, I don't care if it's Great War related or not. Do it. Please do it. Like I said, I'm going to try mini WarMutt. Great show. Well, thank you, sir. But this is all one big whatever. So I'll do that. I hope you guys have a great weekend, great week. That's it. Like I said, I think it's going to be a cool idea for round 3 is that now we have the Hissy Cat audio, the Audible book. That could be one. That'll be one prize. And a second prize will be Gamers with Coffee. It's so cool that I'm going to be able to use prizes that are from you guys. You know what I mean? This is all like this vicious little whatever. I love it. And that's it. Great to see you guys. I'm just about to go to YouTube land here and pop on the, oh, please, God in heaven, did I put it up there? I don't know if I uploaded it. That would have been pretty silly. Well, it's happened, hasn't it? Let's hold on here. I got to get to I think I just go straight to playlists. Hold on here. Did I have it in there? The After Hours show. Number 80. There we are. Thank you guys again. William Mann says I'll be posting the games and location of War of 18 around. Awesome. That would be really cool to see. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm about to, like I said, I'm about to present the screen, and I'm going to turn off my microphone so you guys don't have to hear me bopping around. Okay, so you guys can see that. I'm going to get rid of me entirely. And thank you again. I'm off. I'm going to hit the thingamajig, and that should be it. And please let me know, though, in the comments if you can hear it. Oh, fastest hour on YouTube. Thanks, Sissy Cat. See you. It is. It goes way too quick, man. All right. See you later. And here we go for the war summary for June 30th to July 6th, 1916. To the east of Kolomia, in the region between the Dniester and the Pruth rivers, the army of General Lechitsky, the victor of Czernowitz, has again smashed an Austrian army and forced it to take flight. The battlefront extended for some 25 miles between the Dniester and Pruth, according to the Russian official statement, while Vienna, reporting the defeat to Austrian arms, says that the Austrians were compelled to retire on a part of the front of Kolomia and southward. The struggle seems to have been of a most desperate nature, and the occupation of southeastern Galicia by the victor will almost inevitably follow. The brief reports as yet available indicate the reason for this reticence of the Russian reports during the past few days. After the evacuation of Czernowitz 2 weeks ago, when it was seen by von Flanzer-Bahlen that the Slavs would not be denied, the Austrian army of Bukovina was divided into 2 parts. One retired to the south through Bukovina, and the rounding up of this portion of the Austrian army has proceeded from day to day until the broken remnants have now found safety in the passes of the Carpathians leading from Bukovina to Transylvania. The main body of the Austrians retreated from Czernowitz in a northwesterly direction along the railway, which parallels the Pruth as far as Kolomia, and then bends northerly towards Stanislav. The object of this retirement was to cover the flank of von Bothmer's army of central Galicia holding the lines of the Stripa, which would otherwise have been exposed to a flank attack from the south. The Russian commander, detaching a portion of his force to occupy Bukovina, followed up von Planzer up the Pruth. His advance was greatly delayed by the destruction of bridges, and the Austrians had time to settle down and occupy trenches to the east of Kolomia before he could attack. When he did, the issue was doubtful for a time. The right wing of the Austrians extended south to the foothills of the Carpathians near Kuti, and an Austrian official report stated that on Tuesday, the Russians had been repulsed there with great losses. The successful stroke came near the center, apparently north of the Pruth. The Russian official report says that on Wednesday, General Lechitsky, after artillery preparation, inflicted upon the enemy, despite his desperate resistance, a great defeat in the region between the rivers Dniester and Pruth, and took possession of 3 lines of trenches. The Austrian official account states that to resist Russian massed attacks, the Austrian reserves were brought up, and the superior forces of the Russians were repulsed in hand-to-hand fighting. But in the evening, the Austrians were compelled to retire on a part of the front of Tolemykus and southward. The full fruits of the Russian victory will not be reaped for some time. The first result will almost inevitably be the abandonment of the Stripa lines by the Austrians and the taking up of defensive positions nearer Lemberg. The Cossacks should be able to make many prisoners, for the Austrian morale must be almost entirely shattered by the smashing blows of the Slavs. Another result will be the increase of German stiffening in what remains of Austria's army in Galicia. The Russian advance in Volhynia has been held up by the Russian troops thrown into action west of Lutsk. If Lemberg is to be retained, German troops must hold it. Already it is announced that traffic between Holland and Germany has been suspended to clear the way for troop trains, which are speeding east in great numbers. The removal of German reserves from France and Flanders to the Eastern Front may be the signal for a general attack by the Western Allies. The British headquarters report issued last night again referred to the operations of a large number of reconnoitering and raiding parties, which entered the enemy's trenches at various points along the entire British front. Heavy casualties were inflicted, prisoners were captured, and war stores taken. In several instances, says the report, we remained for a considerable period in the German lines, repulsing counterattacks. One enterprise occurred after the discharge of gas. On entering the German trenches, we found a considerable number of dead. Our casualties were insignificant. With Scotch cannon, General Haig is trying the power of his artillery to smash the German trenches, of his poison gas to kill their occupants, and of his infantry to carry and hold the enemy's positions. Unless the Germans are foxing, which seems improbable, the British are now in a position to advance all along the front without incurring losses to be compared with those suffered in the Neuve-Chapelle or Loos offensives. The midnight French official report tells of a German assault yesterday afternoon upon the French lines west of Hill 304. The attack was beaten back by the French infantry and artillery fire. There was violent grenade fighting during the afternoon at Avocaur Wood. No infantry actions occurred on the east side of the Meuse, but artillery fire was violently maintained around the Fleury and Vaux. The Belgian official report also records great artillery activity on the entire Belgian front. The Italians have made a strong attack on the Pardo Plateau and are hammering away for the first time in weeks at the Austrian lines along the Isonzo. Some trenches have been carried after artillery preparation of great intensity. In the Trentino, the Italians continue to make progress. The Austrians say they have fallen back voluntarily because the ground formerly occupied proved to be unfavorable terrain. It is but a month since the lives of thousands of Austrian veterans troops were sacrificed to secure the unfavorable terrain now relinquished. The French have won a notable victory at Verdun. They have recaptured the Thiamont earthworks taken by the Germans in the Great Drive of Friday, June 23rd, when the enemy launched 180,000 men along the Douaumont and Vaux ridges and through the intervening woods and valleys into endeavor to storm their way past the second line of the French defense. On that day, the Germans took the Thiamont works and penetrated the French front as far as the village of Fleury. Ever since, the French have been counterattacking. The decisive struggle began in the Thiamont region about 10 o'clock yesterday morning, when, according to the French official report, in a most brilliant attack, our troops captured the works despite a most violent barrier fire delivered by the enemy. At about noon, the Germans increased their efforts to eject us and the cost of heavy losses to themselves. In one of their attempts at 3 o'clock, the enemy succeeded in re-entering the works, but a vigorous counterattack put us in the complete possession again by 4:30. Coming to the eve of the day, long ago proclaimed by the Germans as that on which their flag would be hoisted over Verdun, the victory must be peculiarly gratifying to General Nivelle, the commander of the Army of Verdun, and to the French people. The Germans have doubtless removed some of their veteran troops from Verdun to the Eastern Front, but enough remain to carry on a fierce and almost continuous attack. That the French have still positions on the Douaumont Ridge and across the river on the slopes of Hill 304, where they beat back a German attack on Thursday night, shows that the grim watchword of the army of BERTHA, "They shall not pass," is likely to be made good. It is inconceivable that while the Allies, sorry, I went way past here. Where are we? It is inconceivable that while the Allies wage offensive warfare all along the Western Front and on a large part of the Eastern battle line as well, Germany will continue for long to pour men into the bottomless pit of BERTHA. British headquarters last night again reported that patrols, reconnoitering, and raiding parties continued active all along the front and had entered the German trenches at many points and captured prisoners. Even more significant was the statement that south of Neuve-Chapelle, a strong raiding party penetrated to the German support line. It is on the second and third line trenches and the positions well to the rear that the Germans will rely to prevent a breach of their front. The British high explosives must not only destroy the first line trenches in preparation for an infantry assault, but they must make the country for several miles behind the actual front so dangerous that reserves cannot be maintained there in sufficient strength to resist an attack in force. This is a big job, but the penetration of the German position by a raiding party as far as the support line proves that a very substantial advance can be made over ground from which the Germans have been driven by the fierce bombardment of the British guns. The Germans, it is noted, are using their heavy artillery around Souchez and the Hohenzollern redoubt. The number of shells now being used on this front is tremendous. A dispatch from British headquarters says that considerably over 1 million a day are being fired just by the British guns alone, and there seems to be no limit to the supply of them. This new British mortar fire fires so rapidly that 6 shots are in the air at once. Tolemykus has been captured by the victorious Russians as a result of the Battle of Wednesday to the east of the town. An official Petrograd report announces the occupation. Earlier official statements told how the Austrians, panic-stricken in their flight, are leaving us behind a large number of convoys, and that in the region south of the Dniester, we are pursuing the enemy. The Austrian official statement says nothing of the evacuation of Tolemykus itself, but admits that, owing to the pressure of superior forces, our troops have withdrawn from the sector southwest of Tolemykus. Bitter fighting, it is added, is proceeding northwest of Kuti. Tolemykus is an important railway center on the main line between Czernowitz and Lemberg. From Tolemykus, a branch leads southwest through the Carpathians, and that branch will inevitably fall into the hands of the Russians within the next few days. Thousands of prisoners will also be captured along the foothills of the Carpathians by the swift-moving Cossacks. The next objective of the Russians will be Stanislav, some 27 miles northwest of Tolemykus. When they reach that town, they will be halfway from Czernowitz to Lemberg, and the Austrians on the Stripa must evacuate a large area of country so too dangerous to be held. The Italians are pressing the Austrians back on the lower Isonzo front. In the region east of Montfaucon, they captured 2 hills and took 600 prisoners. A little further north on the Carso Plateau, during a counterattack following some Austrian gas emissions, they drove the enemy back and captured 403 Austrians. In the Trentino, between the Brentna and the Adagi, General Cadorna announces that his troops have now reached the main line of resistance. The Austrians are strongly entrenched and supported by artillery. Even in face of this, the Italians go forward. They have again got a foothold on the southern side of Monte Maggio and in the Sugana Valley. They have taken some of the slopes of Monte Siveron and to the north stormed the summit of Zelankofel. In these 2 actions, 331 prisoners were taken. It is announced that Italy is calling up men of the classes of 1882 to 1896. This would mean men between 40 and 44. The more elderly are assuredly not to be utilized in active service, but are probably to be used for garrison purposes to release younger men for the front. An illuminating dispatch from Petrograd tells of the great and rapidly increasing scarcity of trained officers in the Austrian army as a result of the heavy casualties and the captures made by Brusilov. 2/3 of the Austrian officers are young lads from 17 to 20 years of age, brave enough, but without experience. In the Austrian army, as in that of Prussia, there is a great social gulf between the officer and his men. The aristocracy, which provides most of the officers, must have been stripped of men of fighting age. The rank and file of the Austrian army consists largely now of elderly reservists. Men aged 53 are now being taken. When it was announced a few months ago that men of 50 were being called out, it was stated that they were going to be used in guarding the lines of communication and in garrison work. The fearful wastage of men in the Trentino and on the Eastern Front has forced Vienna to break its word to these elderly soldiers. That may account in part for the readiness from which they surrender. Heavy fighting has begun in the Valley of the Somme. Yep. And the opening battles fought on Saturday and Sunday on a front of about 25 miles north and south of the river. The Allied armies have made notable progress. It is too soon to speak in definite terms of the extent of territory occupied within the German lines, of the number of enemy troops captured, or of the losses on both sides. The struggle is not over. The midnight British report states that heavy fighting continued throughout yesterday in the area between the Ancre and the Somme, especially about La Boisselle. Fricourt, a village 3 miles to the east of Albert, was captured by the British troops at 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon and remains in their hands. Some progress has been made east of the village. Elsewhere on the front, the enemy continues to offer stubborn resistance, but the Allies are making satisfactory progress. Sir Douglas Haig's closing word last night was that the general situation might be regarded as favorable, and that the enemy's losses were heavier than the first estimates given. The midnight French official report, which deals with that part of the line north and south of the Somme, upon which the French troops made their advance, states that the second German line south of the river has been penetrated by the French troops, who have captured the village of Fries and the woods of Meudaucourt. Taking these reports together, it would appear that the offensive of the Allies has resulted in the effective occupation of a strip of the enemy's territory about 25 miles in length and varying from 1 to over 5 miles in depth. North of the river Ancre to the British failed to hold all the ground at first overrun, so that the gain tapers from a very narrow depth north of the Ancre to 5 miles in the region of the Somme. Dispatches arriving from the front are necessarily fragmentary, and there is not sufficient information upon which to make estimates as to the losses of the Allies and of the Germans. They've unquestionably been heavy. In a single village captured by the French, the bodies of 1,500 German dead were found. The Paris official statement announces that the number of unwounded prisoners captured by the French during the 2 days fighting is more than 6,000, of whom at least 150 are officers. The statement adds that the French losses, thanks to the very brave, efficacious artillery preparation and the elan of the infantry, have been very small. The British official report states that the British troops have taken 3,500 Germans, including 800 captured, between the Ancre and the Somme up to noon yesterday. Since that time, there has been heavy fighting around La Boisselle and Fricourt, which must have added to the total number captured. The losses of the British have undoubtedly been heavier than those of the French. The carrying of the first line of German trenches in the early morning of Saturday with a rush occasioned but few British casualties. The enemy's troops in these trenches had been pounded almost into insensibility by the terrific cannonade that preceded the British infantry attack. It was after the breaking of the first line, when the victorious British troops began to push their way far into the German territory, that the struggle developed into a sanguinary battle in which the most stubborn resistance was offered by the German troops to farther advances. The enemy was not taken by surprise. Among the troops opposite the British were found the men of the Prussian Guards Division who fought at Luss and Neuchâtel, veterans whose presence was almost certainly due to the knowledge that a great assault was about to be made in the region of the Somme. The action will continue for several days along the present front. The Allies are bringing their guns up so that they can once more prepare the new German front for another assault. They are now only 7 miles west of Péronne, one of the most important railway junctions in northern France. They've captured 11 towns and villages and some 50 square miles of French territory held for almost 2 years by the German army. 2 years. The trenches and earthworks in this region were of the strongest and most permanent character. That all these elaborately constructed defensive positions have been taken within 48 hours and held against counterattacks shows that the boasted impregnability of the German lines on the Western Front is a sham, and that with a sufficient artillery preparation, the lines may be broken. Oops. And at any chosen point on the front. French military writers point out that the piling up of the defensive lines, one behind the other, makes it necessary to pierce these defenses to such a depth that the effort can be made only along a narrow front. The initial successes of Saturday and Sunday must be followed up by a renewal of the artillery preparation, which preceded the first assault. The Germans will naturally concentrate heavy guns behind their shattered front to make a reply to the artillery of the Allies, while their infantrymen strengthen the second and third line positions to prevent the French and British troops from breaking through and attacking the Germans along their flanks on each side of the breach. The Allied troops are in excellent spirits and will await with confidence the appointed time for the next attack. There must be a delay of several days at least to permit the guns to be moved up into the conquered territory. The required artillery consists not only of field guns and heavier weapons of the more mobile sort, but of great 11 and 12-inch mortars. New emplacements may have to be prepared also for the huge 15-inch guns that have been recently installed behind the lines of the Allies for use in smashing railway stations, cantonments, redoubts, and conspicuous earthworks far in the rear of the German lines. These guns may now be safely brought up close enough to the front to make the continued German occupation of Peronne impossible. It would be unreasonable to speak of the operations now in progress as the great offensive of the Allies. The writer of the war summary believes that it will be found to have been a preliminary tryout, and that a similar breach on a wider front is likely to be made in the Lille region, where the material gain to the French of a similar successful operation in pushing back the German front will imperil the enemy's hold on the great industrial center of northern France. The Battle of the Somme has begun well. It will be followed up not only along the German front now under pressure, but at other vulnerable points in northern France and in Belgium. In the other fields of action, all goes well. The French have again captured Thiamont and are holding their own elsewhere on the eastern bank of the Meuse. The Italians continue to make progress in the Trentino. The Russians have again defeated the Austrians west of Tolemykus and have captured 2,000 men recently brought up to reinforce the enemy. The Russian official statement says that greater number of these prisoners were intoxicated. In Volhynia, the struggle between the reinforced Germans and the Russian army continues. The Germans have made a series of desperate attacks on the Sokol sector. They were driven back once, and in their route, fugitives were destroyed in masses, but reserves have since come up, and the attack has been resumed. The Russians are content here to hold their own. What the hell happened there? Hold on. In Asia Minor and Mesopotamia, there have been sharply contested battles over a wide area. The Turks have been badly beaten in the Black Sea region and in the mountainous country south of the coast range. But near Karand, to the east of Baghdad, they claim an important success, and Petrograd admits that in this region, pressure by important enemy forces continues. Just going to take a pause. In the valley of the Somme, the drive of the Allies continues with satisfactory results. Both the British and French made advances, but those of the French south of the river were the more important. From a point near Peronne to Bray, the Somme flows west through a marshy region, bordered by hills with rounded, hummocky tops. South of Peronne, the river turns sharply to the south and flows from that direction for about 15 miles. The French are endeavoring to clear the Germans out of this territory west and south of the Somme. The capture of Peronne, and on the east bank of the river, may be difficult unless the drive north and south of the town continues west to the east of the river. If, however, the French secure a footing on the west bank of the Somme opposite Peronne, they can make Peronne itself untenable and prevent the enemy from making use of the admirable road system that centers there. No less than 11 roads radiate from Peronne, 6 of them being so constructed as to stand the weight of heavy artillery transport. In the region south of the Somme and west of Peronne, the French yesterday broke through the second German line of defense. They captured during the day the village of just south of the river, Herbecourt, Flourcourt, Bouscourt, and Asviar. I'm gonna have to really learn these things, man. At Flourcourt, the point captured nearest to the Somme south of Peronne, the French midnight report says the ground conquered us reaches a depth of 5 kilometers. My God, I'm butchering this page. A little over 3 miles. 2 days more of an advance, such as that of yesterday, will carry the gallant Frenchmen to the banks of the Somme and give them an easily defended front on the west bank of the river. The Germans have been trying to throw reinforcements across the river into the threatened territory. The Paris Midnight Report says that some of these reinforcements, which were observed east of Flaucourt and Balloy, were caught under the fire of the French artillery and dispersed. On the British front, progress has not been so marked as that of the French. The German resistance is much more tenacious in the region east of Albert than it has been farther south. General Haig's report tells of the capture of La Boisselle, and in defense of which the German garrison, cut off from its supports, had fought without cessation since the drive began on Saturday morning. At Villers, also to the north of La Boisselle on the east bank of the Ancre, which the Germans have been holding, the British was especially severe. Still farther north, near Thiepval, the British failed to hold some ground taken by them early yesterday morning. Elsewhere, many German counterattacks were repulsed with heavy loss. General Haig's summing up is that substantial progress has been made at some points. The British objective on this part of the front is the important road center of Bapaume. No details are yet available as to the losses. A record of German prisoners taken shows that 4,300 have passed to the rear through to the British lines and over 8,000 through the French. The casualties on both sides must be many. Frederick Palmer, an experienced war correspondent, emphasizes the number of machine guns in use both by the Allies and the Germans. These machine guns are of great value in holding positions such as that at La Boisselle, where the Germans were hemmed in and could not hope to force a way out. The British troops which penetrated the village must have paid a high price for their victory. In all, the other little villages taken, the ruined houses appear to have been used to shelter innumerable machine guns, and the casualties resulting from their use could not but be serious. Lord have mercy! Fortunately, the Lewis, the new British machine gun, which has been issued in thousands, is very easily carried and in most effective in house-to-house fighting. General interest in the Battle of the Somme should not result in the minimizing of the great struggle on the Eastern Front. There are 3 campaigns of the utmost importance involving almost 4 million men are in progress. In the region between Riga and the Pripyat marshes, in which Hindenburg is the German leader and Kuropatkin is commander-in-chief of the Russians, the latter, with the object of preventing the Germans from detaching troops to take part in the struggle south of the Pripyat, are attacking fiercely at many points. Berlin admits that at Niki, north of the Smorgon, the Russians penetrated their lines, but added that they were ejected immediately with heavy losses. At about 80 miles further south, near Baranovichi, an important railway center, for the possession of which the Russians have fought several battles, used to be their headquarters in 1914, they penetrated the German line. Berlin states that a counterattack is now proceeding. An advance at this point of less than 10 miles would give the Russians control of continuous railway communication in rear of their battlefront from Minsk to Rovno. South of the Pripyat marshes, on what is known as the Lutsk sector, a prolonged struggle is in progress between Brusilov's main army and that of von Linsingen. Here, both the Germans and Austrians have concentrated great bodies of reinforcements drawn from the French and Italian fronts and are endeavoring by an advance from Kovel to Brest-Litovsk to pierce the new Russian front at the points where Brusilov's recent advance was most marked. The Germans claim that Russian counterattacks here have broken down, that heavy losses were inflicted on Brusilov's army, and that 1,800 prisoners were taken. Petrograd says that in the northern part of the region, fierce battles continue, in which the Russians have taken 16 officers, 800 men, and 9 enemy machine guns. In the region west of Lutsk, where the Austrians advanced in great force, they were driven back with heavy loss, including 800 prisoners. At another point, 800 more were captured, so that the Russians took altogether 2,400 men during the day and held their positions all along the front. In southern Galicia, General Lechitsky's still presses forward. He is now 17 miles west of Kolomia and almost in touch with the railway by which the Austrians on the Stripa maintain their connection with Hungary by way of Stanislaw and the Carpathians. After he secures this railway, he will turn north and attack Stanislaw. The main Russian advance on Lemberg is quite manifestly taking form of an enveloping movement from the south. The Italian operations in the Trentino continue to show good results, especially north of the Posina Brook, where the recent occupation of the southern slope of the Monte Maggio has given a foothold for further advances. In the Caucasus, the Turkish offensive in the region south of the Black Sea coast range has come to a disastrous end. The Russians have turned the Turks out of their positions and inflicted great losses upon them. From Bucharest comes a report, unofficial but entirely credible, that Russian patrols have crossed the Carpathians and entered Hungary, where they are cutting telegraph lines and blowing up buildings in which food and munitions are stored. The news, it is added, has caused a deep impression in Budapest. We know what's about to happen. The Hungarian wheat crop is vital to the maintenance of the food supply of the Central Empires during another winter of war. The French advance in the valley of the Somme continues despite torrential rains that make the waging of offensive warfare difficult. During yesterday, the lines of our allies south of the Somme were extended toward the south and west. By the occupation of the village of Borloo and Beloy-en-Santerre to the east of Asville, that goddamn thing again. The French now command the main road between Péronne and Chaulnes and have greatly increased the already serious difficulties of the enemy in bringing up supplies to their troops on the west bank of the Somme. A general retirement of the Germans to the east bank of the Somme in the region east of that place again seems inevitable. Farther south, the French took the greater part of the village of Estrée, and in the immediate vicinity, 500 more prisoners were captured. I'm telling you this, it's going to happen. Next week, I've had enough of this crap. I'm going through, well, I already read it ahead of time anyways to get my head around this stuff. But I've had enough. I'm going to go through the bloody, when I'm reading out every single word that I'm having the difficulty with, I'm writing it down and I'm going to up and pronounce it during the week. I've had enough of this garbage. It's driving me up the tree. The British operations yesterday consisted for the most part of the consolidation of the ground won on Saturday and Sunday. The Germans seemed to set much store on La Boisselle, for strong reinforcements were thrown into the battle there on Monday night. Either that or get a lot of money and hire a proper person to do this. A small part of the German defenses south of the village was recaptured, but the latest report from the British headquarters states that at La Boisselle, fierce fighting and bombing continued. And I know I keep always pretending like getting some amazing, really good newscaster woman. I'm like, as if. Bombing encounters took place during the past 24 hours. Our troops are now in complete possession of the village. Although heavily attacked on the front south of Thiepval, captured in Saturday's advance, the British held their own, and on the southern end of the line, a wood was occupied. Thunderstorms interfered with the operations during the afternoon. It is officially announced that over 5,000 prisoners have been taken by the British, including 20 officers and 600 men of the 186th Prussian Infantry, who surrendered in a body near Fricourt on Monday after the trenches occupied by the battalion had been so badly damaged by British shellfire as to be untenable. This is a significant surrender because of the fact that the officers were apparently in sympathy with their men and came in voluntarily with them. Usually the men have to run the gauntlet of their own officers' revolvers when they decide to throw down their arms. Fighting of the most sanguinary nature continues on the northern front of the midnight report from Paris tells how the Germans yesterday afternoon captured the Thielmo work for the fourth time by a massed attack following an intense bombardment with guns of large caliber. The French hold their positions immediately south of Thielmo. The successful assault was preceded by an all-night battle on Monday night when no less than 6 German infantry attacks were beaten off with exceedingly heavy losses. The price paid for the Thielmo work by the enemy has been terrific, and there is no assurance that the position is now safe from further French counterattacks. The Russian and German official reports of the fighting on the Eastern Front cannot be reconciled. And as the Russian reports have been in the past, proved to be more reliable than they have been accepted by the writer of this war summary. The Germans claim that in the Baranovichi sector, their counterattacks proved successful and resulted in the capture of 13 officers and 1,883 men. The Russian report states definitely that 2 lines of the enemy works have been pierced northeast of Baranovichi and that the battle continues. The Russians captured on Monday 72 officers and 2,700 men of Prince Leopold's fine fighting troops. The capture of Baranovici would be a most important gain. In Galicia, the struggle for Stanislaw approaches a climax. Berlin asserts that at Klumach, 15 miles east of Stanislaw, von Bothmer has won an important victory by a surprise attack, which forced back the Russians on a front of 12.5 miles to a depth of more than 5.25 miles, he says. This action is not reported by Petrograd, which states that in this region, the Russians have repulsed 3 attacks by the enemy, and that in the direction of Kolomea, the Austrians have been dislodged from several positions and pursued. 4 cannon and a few hundred prisoners were taken. On the Styr and the Stockade, there is heavy fighting, and an attempt of the Austro-Germans to cross the Styr was defeated, and the enemy left almost 1,000 prisoners and 5 machine guns in the hands of the Russians. There's evidence all along the Eastern Front that Germans as well as Austrians are surrendering far more readily than they did in the earlier engagements. Italian official reports prove conclusively that the Austrians are getting distinctively the worst of it in the struggle along the Isonzo as well as in the Trentino. In the Monfalcone sector of the Isonzo, several Austrian trenches have been stormed by the Italians and 381 men captured, including a battalion commander and 8 officers. In the Trentino, there's been desperate fighting on the Bretna Adagi, especially in the Polsina sector, where detachments of the enemy are now being rounded up. The total of the days captured is 618 men on both fronts. Very little of German East Africa now remains in possession of the Kaiser's troops. The capture of Bukoba, a port on the west shore of Lake Victoria, Nyanza, and of Kondoa Irangi on the Masai steppe pretty well clears the northern part of the territory of Germans. They are all retiring to the Central Railway, where their final stand will be made near Kilimatindi. The Russians are again on the move in the region of the Baiburt, south of the Black Sea coast range, and have driven the Turks back there and taken considerable quantities of war supplies. And that's a side article. All right. Peronne and all the roads leading out of it are today dominated by French guns. I don't know if that was a screw up or what, but I'm going with this. General Foch's midnight report shows that on the north side of the river, where the Germans until yesterday held positions from which the French advance along the south banks, could be enfiladed by artillery fire. Our allies spent a very strenuous and a very successful day driving the enemy in toward Peronne. The splendid infantry of France first carried the southern slope of a small hill north of the village of Curlew on the riverbank. Pushing east, they assailed the German second-line positions on the ridges along the river and as far north as the main road from Peronne to Albert, a distance of about 2,000 yards. These positions, General Foch states, were completely carried. Pressing forward to the east, he continues, we attacked the village of Hem, which fell into our hands after heavy fighting, as well as the farm of Monaca. During these actions, 300 soldiers and 3 officers were made prisoners. The result of the day's advance is that on the north side of the Somme, the French are now some 7,500 yards from Peronne and have protected their forces, which are advancing on the south side of the river, from the possibility of serious damage at the hands of the German gunners. South of the Somme, it is officially announced that on a front of 6 1/4 miles, all the German second-line positions are now in the hands of the French. On the southern riverbank, the army of General Foch rests left on the Sourmont farm, which is scarcely 5,000 yards from the main street of Peronne. The right wing of the advance south of the river had some hard fighting to do before it secured the ground won. The Germans brought up heavy reinforcements and counterattacked at Baloé. They were beaten off. They held a mill in the northern outskirts of Estrée, and after a vigorous action, what was left of the garrison, some 200 men, surrendered. They clung to the communication trench between Baloé and Estrée, but were cleared out. 2 immensely strong defensive lines, consisting of many rows of trenches, strong earthworks, concreted machine gun shelters, artillery emplacements, and subterranean quarters for the troops, which have taken almost 2 years to construct and perfect to the satisfaction of the German engineers, have been carried by the French on an 8-mile front in 5 days of steady fighting. It is a wonderful bit of work. Only one more prepared position, consisting of a triple line of trenches, confronts General Foch's army, and then it will be out in the open country east of the Somme, where the Germans will have to face it in hastily constructed trenches, with no dugouts 40 feet down in the earth to shelter them from the pounding of the big guns. Sir Douglas Haig's report of the operations on the British front north of the Somme is brief. No special incident of importance occurred. The fighting was continuous all along the front. The British lost no ground gained and advanced slightly in certain sectors. The German casualties were heavy, and many more prisoners were taken. The total captured on the British front in the past 5 days is now over 6,000. The French have taken about 10,000, so that the bag begins to assume respectable proportions. All the dispatches describing general conditions say that the Germans are putting up a far more powerful resistance to the British than the French advance, and are counterattacking with very large forces in the belief that the real danger on this front is to be feared from the British front. It is asserted that in the hope of relieving the pressure on the southern end of the British front, the Germans are organizing a powerful offensive between Arras and the Belgian frontier. What the British are concealing behind the Vimy Ridge is likely to prove a surprise to the Teutons. It is announced by the Russian War Office that General Lechitsky's troops have cut the railway which, passing through Delatin, crosses the Carpathians and connects Galicia with Hungary. No details of the action are available. The bulletin sent out states that the Austrians were routed on the right bank of the Dniester, doubtless near Tolemykus, where a sanguinary struggle has been in progress for several days. The Russians are employing cavalry on a large scale in their advance. Well, we've been hearing about that every 5 seconds with the Cossacks. In their advance towards Lemberg from the southeast. And I don't know about you, but it was like, whoa, this is neat to hear again. An Austrian official report evidently sent out before the decisive struggle east of Stanislav, recorded in the preceding paragraph, announces that near Tolemykus, a massive Russian cavalry, 6 ranks deep along a front of over 3,000 yards, attacked the Austrian troops of von Bothmer's army. The Russian horsemen were dispersed, it is stated, suffering heavy losses. The significance of this item is that it marks the end of position warfare for the time in the Galician sphere of operations. The throwing of 10,000 horsemen in a mass against a strongly fortified position, consisting of several lines of trenches and earthworks, is not a practicable thing, and it must therefore be supposed that von Bothmer's troops were out in the open when attacked. The Austrians claim a success on the upper Styr, where at Verben, 11 Russian officers and 839 men are reported to have been captured during an action in which the Russians were the aggressors but were repulsed. Vienna says that during June, south of the Pripyat marshes, 158 Russian officers and 23,025 men were made prisoners. We got more stats for our little thing, which is going to be great. As the Russians captured a little over 10 times as many on the same front at the same time, the Austrians have not much to brag of. There have been what the Russian official report speaks of most desperate battles in Volhynia and northern Galicia. On the Styr, west of Kolki, Brusilov's troops overthrew the Germans and took more than 1,000 prisoners, 3 guns, 17 machine guns, and several thousands of rifles. It was in this region that the pressure of von Linsingen's counteroffensive was strongest. The Russians seem to be holding the maximum of the German effort on this part of the front, while striking with the utmost vigor in southern Galicia. The most serious fighting on the Trentino front seems to be taking place now at the southern end of the line in the Adagi Valley, where the Italians are once more getting a grip on the Konzi-Zugna position, the long mountain ridge that occupies the space between the Adagi and the Arza Valley. The Austrians attacked there on Monday night and were repulsed. To the northeast, progress was made along the upper Stacco. There has been fierce fighting along the Isonzo. The Austrians say they held all their positions. The Italians report that they took some prisoners. And here's the last paragraph. The occupation of Kermanshah by the Turks, which is reported from Constantinople, indicates that the Russians, who 2 months ago were reported to be descending upon Baghdad from the mountains on the western Persian frontier, are now falling back steadily before the Turkish counterattack. It will be remembered that prior to the surrender of General Townsend at Kut El Amara, the Russians made a rapid advance in the hopes of creating a diversion. That plan did not succeed. The Turks held their lines till Kut surrendered,
and only then did they detach a part of their army from the Tigris to prevent the Russians from reaching Baghdad. The long silence and inaction of Sir Percy Lake and the failure to strengthen the Russian army of Baghdad indicate that the Allies are too busy elsewhere to conduct an important offensive just now in Mesopotamia. The reinvasion of Persia by the Turks may, however, make it necessary to deal vigorously with them. All right, that's it, and I hope that went somewhat well. See you next week, I hope.